Good morning, everyone. As ma'am has introduced me, you all know my name. So I hope after this masterclass, you gain the confidence in yourself that you will be acing the board exams with flying colors. And I assure you that you will be able to do that. So chemistry, children, uh, it is not a very difficult subject, first of all. Remove that fear of difficulty. That today I will be starting this masterclass with showing you the paper pattern, discussing the name of the chapters, and point wise in each chapter, what are the points of emphasis, what are the questions that will be asked, and the common errors that children make in the questions. We will be discussing about that. Okay. So I would like to present my PPT with you all. Just give me 1 second. I'll share it. I hope the PPT is visible to everyone. Kindly unmute and tell
Yes,
me
yes.
because I
We
can
are
see
able
only
to
the
see.
PPT.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, ma'am. So, children, the paper pattern for the board exams, we all know that the paper consists of 80 marks and 20 marks will be the practical work. That will be the internal marks which will be given to you by the teachers. You have to write the paper for 80 marks. The time duration for this paper will be 2 hours. The paper is basically divided into two sections. Section 1 is for 40 marks and section 2 is for 40 marks. Now here we need to know that section 1 is a compulsory section where you have to attempt all the questions. That is the 40 marks are the compulsory marks which you have to face. In this also children, 15 marks are there for the MCQs and 25 marks questions are basically your objective questions, that is the short answer questions. Here you will be getting the questions from the entire syllabus. Similarly, the MCQs that we get, one MCQ from each chapter will be asked. I would like to tell you children that there is no blueprint for chemistry ICSE board exams. No blueprint. You cannot say, I won't be doing this chapter and I will be getting marks. No, you cannot leave any chapter because you don't know from which chapter and where they are going to ask the question. So you have to do all the chapters. Coming to section 2, the section 2 will contain 6 questions and you have to answer any 4 of these out of these 6 questions. Now children, my tip over here will be that try to attempt all the 6 questions. So chances of losing your marks becomes very minimal. Now, next, all chemical processes, reactions, whatever is given in the book, you have to study it with reference to the reactions, products, and conditions. Conditions are a must over here. The equations that you write have to be balanced. After writing each equation, see that the equation is balanced. Diagram-based questions are also asked, children. Now, there are few do's and the don'ts which you have to follow. During the paper, be calm. Please do not panic. If you have studied, slowly you will know all the answers. It will slip in and you'll be able to write all the answers. So children, there are few do's and don'ts which you have to keep in mind when you're writing the paper. The moment you get the paper, first of all, be calm. Do not panic. Okay, I don't know this question, I don't know this question. No, don't do that. You have learned everything, you will know everything. Slowly, you'll recollect everything. So don't panic. Next, utilize the reading time fruitfully. Whatever time, the 15 minutes that you get in reading, you have to read the questions properly, children. In chemistry, they don't give you direct questions. They twist the questions and they give you. So it is very important for you to read each and every question. First, try to understand what is being given in the question and what they have asked you. Okay. Do not mark anything on the question paper. Do not mark anything for the MCQs as well. Light work is allowed, but what I would suggest you is do not write anything on the question paper. Next, when you check section B, see which question you know the best and start writing the answer of that question. So for section B, decide on 2 questions to be attempted and take the questions you are well versed with. Do not solve anything on the question paper. When you start writing the answers, mention the question number as per the question it is given in the question paper. You have a habit of writing the wrong question paper and then you start solving some other question. So the question number and the answer that you have solved doesn't match. So avoid doing that. Please mention the question number properly. Do not cancel out anything that you have written unless it is repeated twice. Do not cancel out anything. Even if you have written it with a pencil, do not cancel it, do not erase it. Okay. My tip over here will be, when, if time permits, attempt extra questions. Children, do attempt all the questions for chemistry, because the best marks will be taken into consideration. So my tip over here is that attempt all the questions that are given to you. Next, if you are canceling anything, restart it from a fresh new line. I would like to tell you that question also, each question do it on a new page. Only if you have utilized 2-3 lines of any page, then you can continue. But if it is half page or down, use a fresh page for a fresh question. So while correcting, it becomes easier for the examiner, and then he's up while correcting your paper. Next, all rough work has to be done on the same sheet. Make a column on the right hand side and do the rough work over there. Okay. Do not erase the rough working that you have done by any chance. So these are few of the do's and don'ts which you have to keep in mind when you are solving the paper. So here we start with the grade 10 ICSE chemistry chapters. The first chapter over here is periodic properties and variations of properties. Children, this is a very easy chapter, provided you know the concepts very well. It is a very, very easy chapter and it is very scoring as well. The main emphasis over here is for the definitions, the periodic table, the trends of periodic properties, and the exceptions. Now, one thing which I would like to mention over here is, children, when you are learning the definitions, see to it you learn it the way it is given in the textbook. Do not try to write the definitions in your own words. Here what happens is, there is you normally get confused, you misinterpret the terms, and the keywords are lost and you tend to lose marks. So the definitions, whichever definition is given in the book, learn it the way it is given and try to write it the same way it is given. So the important definitions in this chapter are the definition of atomic radius, ionization enthalpy, electron affinity, electronegativity, non-metallic and metallic characters. Now, in the periodic table for your grade 10, you need to know the groups, elements present in the group 1, group 2, group 17, and group 80. That is a zero group. So you have to learn all the properties about alkali metals, that those are present in group 1, alkaline earth metals present in group 2, halogens in group 17, and inert gases, zero group or 8. You need to know the trends of the periodic properties also. Among the periods, you need to know the elements present in the first 3 periods of the periodic table. So my suggestion over here will be, learn the elements, the first 20 elements of the periodic table. You need to know the symbol, name, atomic numbers, atomic masses, and the electronic configuration of the first 20 elements of the periodic table. The question types that is basically asked from this chapter is, on the first slide, the definitions will be asked. The definition will be given to you and they will ask you to identify the term. Then they will ask you the reasons, and the favorite question, that is the arrange the elements in ascending and descending order. They will give you a set of elements and in the bracket they will ask you to arrange it either in the increasing order or decreasing order of the atomic radius, ionization enthalpy, electron affinity, and so on. So my tip over here will be, children, first you write the elements the way it is in the periodic table. First arrange them the way it is given in the periodic table, and then put the greater than or less than sign. Basically, children, here the confusion what is done is, you all put the signs opposite. So check whether it is in the increasing order or whether it is in the decreasing order. See what is asked in the questions and do it accordingly. If you are confused about the signs, Don't put the signs. You can put commas also. Don't forget the commas. Put the commas and arrange them increasing order or decreasing. If you are confused about the sign, don't use the signs. It's fine if you are not using it. But then you have to separate them with the commas. And whatever element is given in the question, copy the same thing. Sometimes you are in a hurry and you write something else. So the answer over there goes wrong. Okay. Now, the common errors that are made while solving the questions on this chapter. Missing the key terms while writing definitions. This is already what I told you. Then you get confused with the greater than and less than sign. So to avoid it, I told you you can use commas also. Then you are also confused about the vertical columns and horizontal rows, whether they are asking you about the period or the group. So when they tell you down the group, that means they are talking about the columns, vertical columns. And across a period, these are the horizontal. Then, from this chapter, they might give you the skeleton of a periodic table in which they might put elements and the actual symbols of the elements are not used over here. They might use any random alphabet and they tend to ask you questions based on that. Now, the mistake what you make over here is while answering the questions, you all start writing the names of the actual elements. Avoid to do that. You have to answer the question you have to stick to the point what is asked in the question paper. If they are asking you what will be the formula of compound C and D, so you have to use C and D only. No matter whether you know that the correct answer will be what, you are not supposed to use the name, the exact name of those elements. Even if you are using it, write it in a bracket. But the answer has to be with respect to the alphabets that are mentioned in the question paper. So this was all about chapter 1. Ma'am, please change the slide. Okay. Next chapter is chemical bonding. Again, this is a very easy chapter. You have already done this chapter as well in grade 9. Okay. So emphasis over here is again to definitions. Definitions of electrovalent or ionic bond, covalent bond, coordinate bond, lone pair of electrons, polar and non-polar compounds, etc. Electron dot structure and diagram. Children, in grade 9, you had studied about the orbital diagram. But in grade 10, you have to draw the electron dot structures. Don't draw the orbital structures. Okay? So, different compounds are given in your book. You have to stick to whatever is asked in the syllabus. You have to practice only those. For ionic compounds, children, we have calcium oxide, we have sodium chloride, and we have magnesium chloride. For covalent, we have hydrogen, we have nitrogen, we have oxygen, we have hydrogen chloride, we have carbon tetrachloride, we have methane. So practice these structures of these compounds thoroughly. Next, they will also ask you the differences between properties of ionic and covalent compounds. They will ask you the differences between polar and non-polar covalent compounds of molecules. The question types, the electron dot structure. It is a definitely asked question, children. 100% they will ask you a question on this. And amongst these two, we have the coordinate compounds, that is hydronium ion, structure of hydronium ion, and structure of ammonium ion. Out of these two structures, one is definitely asked, children. Also look at the weightage of the question. If it is a 2-mark question, they will ask you to draw the entire formation. So there you need to show the entire formation. You cannot only draw the structure of the compound. When they ask you the formation, this plus this arrow and this will give this. So you have to draw the entire thing. Then differentiate between definitions and give reasons are also asked from the question. And do we have to write the equations below? No need to write the equation, but they are asking you only to draw the formation. So you have to only do the formation part. If you want to write for your convenience, you can write it. But there are no marks allotted for that. Okay. So now the common errors that children make while writing this, missing the key terms and definitions. For electron dot structures, only dots or only crosses are used. Over here, this line means if they have asked you to draw the structure of calcium oxide, for example, So what you tend to do is you use dots for calcium oxide, for calcium also, and you use dots for oxygen also. Avoid doing that. If I have calcium and if I have oxygen, make sure if one is shown with dots, the other has to be shown with dots. Only if the elements are same, for example, molecule of oxygen or molecule of nitrogen or molecule of chlorine, then you can use the similar ones. But if it is different, you have to use different applications over there. So you have to use dots and crosses both. One more thing, when we are drawing the structure for carbon tetrachloride, children, you forget to draw the remaining 6 electrons for chlorine. The structure which you draw is like this, the wrong structure I've shown you over here. So don't forget to draw the crosses for chlorine. Chlorine has 7 electrons. So you have to show all the 7 electrons in the structure. One more mistake which is being made is you have drawn, yes, you have to identify the lone pair as well. You have to identify the lone pair as well. Between the dot and cross, don't draw the bond. You are not supposed to draw the bond. If you are drawing a bond, what you have to do is then you cannot show the dots and crosses. Either the dot or cross will come or the bond will come. So here when they are asking you to draw the dot and crosses, show the dot and cross only. If you want to show the bond, show it in the other structure. Other structure means you have written CCl4 with dot and cross. In a bracket, write C and Cl4 with the bonds. Okay? Yes, you have to draw a bracket for the ions. Ma'am, the second slide only. When you are writing these structures for ionic bonds, ionic compounds, don't forget to write the charge. You have to draw a bracket and you have to mention the charge, whether it is positive or negative. While drawing the compound, in the formation part, you show the arrows, but when you are drawing the structure, what happens is you forget the charge. So if the charge is not there, you will not get the marks. Similarly, for hydronium ion and ammonium ion also, children, don't forget to write the charge, the positive charge outside the compound. You have to show that. When you are drawing the coordinate bond, the lone pair of electrons which is being shared, you can either show it with a one-sided arrow or use the dots. One more mistake which you all make over here is when you are showing the coordinate bond formation, what you do is you don't write H plus. You write H plus and you put one more electron over there. Don't do that. H plus means it is having no electrons. So you are not supposed to draw an electron over there. That is the mistake which you make. Okay. For MgCl2, yes, either you can write it in two separate brackets Cl, or you can write two outside the bracket and you can show only one Cl. That also you can. Okay, coming to the third chapter, that is acid, bases and salts. Children, it is a very important chapter. You have to know the definitions of acid, bases, alkalis, salts, acid salts, basic salts, normal salts, then the properties of acids and bases. What are the ions that are present in acids, alkalis and salts? Then indicators, different types of indicators that we are using. That is a universal indicator, litmus paper. Then you need to know about the pH paper, pH scale, that is from 0 to 14. 7 is the neutral. 7 and below 7, below 7 it will be acidic. More than 7 it is going to be alkaline or basic. 7 is going to be there for neutral. You need to know this. Okay. The color changes when you are using a litmus paper. What will be the color change you will be seeing? All this you need to know. The questions that is going to be asked will be action of dilute acids on salts. What will be the action of heat on different salts? Color changes with indicators, then the color change due to heat, pH value of various solutions, the equations that are given, difference between ionization and dissociation, difference between normal salt, acid salt, basic salt, based on the partial or complete replacement of ions. And the last one, preparation of salts by using the given methods. Now, children, there are ways, soluble salts and insoluble salts. We all know the various methods that are used for the preparation of these salts. So, soluble salts can be prepared by various methods: direct combination methods, neutralization methods, displacement method, decomposition methods. But insoluble salts are prepared only by two methods. One will be the direct combination method, and the other one will be the precipitation method. Insoluble salts, basically, we use the precipitation method for their preparations. So you need to know the examples as well. Yes, you need to know the solubility of different radicals. Yes. Then the common errors which you make in this chapter is the color change with the indicators. You forget what will be the color change. So you need to learn that. Then pH value of acids, alkali, and neutral solutions. Most of the time what you do is more than 7 you write it as acidic, and less than 7 you put it as alkaline or basic. So avoid doing that. Then the ions which are present in an alkali, in acid and salts, you need to know that also. Missing out the word moist for litmus paper while identifying the gases. We always use a moist litmus paper. Then missing out the confirmatory test of for a gas. If you write a gas is evolved, which gas was evolved? You need to mention the color, the odor, and along with that, we need to write the confirmatory test of that gas. That is very, very important. Any one confirmatory test or chemical test can be given over there. Then there is confusion between acidity and basicity. That is basicity of acetic acid. Basicity of acetic acid is no doubt it has 4 hydrogens in it. Still the basicity is 1. Okay, it is monobasic acid. So you tend to forget here this. Then confusion in methods of preparation of salts. So which salt will be prepared with which method? This you need to. So you need to learn this. Next slide. Now, very, very important chapter, analytical chemistry, use of ammonium hydroxide and sodium hydroxide. Children, if you check the cations that are given to you or the salt solutions that are given to you, they are same. We have to take the same salt solutions, but once we have to test it with ammonium hydroxide and then with sodium hydroxide. Over here, basically, they ask you observation types of questions or identify the cation. Here you need to understand that what is the change when we are adding sodium hydroxide or ammonium hydroxide dropwise and then in excess. So we all know that a precipitate will be formed, but the solubility of that precipitate in excess of ammonium hydroxide or sodium hydroxide is very important. We need to know that. You write a pale blue ppt is formed. But if in the question they have asked you, what if we add it in excess? So you have to mention after adding it in excess, what is going to happen. So the color of the precipitate and the solubility of the precipitate has to be mentioned everywhere, wherever the observation type of question is asked. So here you need to know the identification of the cations, you need to know the color of the salts and the salt solutions. Very important. Color of the precipitate observed with sodium hydroxide and ammonium hydroxide. As I said, solubility of the precipitate with ammonium hydroxide and sodium hydroxide dropwise and in excess. Special action of ammonium hydroxide on copper salt solutions and sodium hydroxide on ammonium salt solutions. Actions of alkalis on certain metals, that is amphoteric metals, zinc, aluminium, and lead. What will happen if they are amphoteric? One question was asked in the prelim 1 exam based on this topic. Then basically observation types of questions and identification type of questions are asked from this chapter. So the common errors that are made, normally you'll write dirty green for reddish brown and reddish brown for dirty green. And you just write reddish brown in color. You forget the word precipitate. Don't forget the word precipitate over there. You have to mention the word precipitate. Instead of precipitate, children tend to write residue. No, you will get wrong. Residue is different. Misinterpretation of terms, not allowed. If it is a precipitate, it has to be mentioned as a precipitate. You cannot write residue or leftover. No, you cannot. It is remaining. You cannot write it that. Some of you, what you do is in the observation questions, you just write the reactions and you leave it like that. Yes, you have to write the solubility in both dropwise and axis, even if they are same. Yes, you have to write it. Please don't miss out on writing that. Yes. So your children, the word precipitate is very, very important. You have to mention the word precipitate. And if they have asked you the observation, don't write only the reaction and leave it. You have to write what you have observed. Only writing the equation will not give you marks. You need to mention what you have observed over there. That is very important. Then for identification of cation, you just write chloride, that is, or Cl minus. Don't write like that. Write chloride ion into bracket Cl minus. Write the complete thing. No? Then writing the chemical name of the hydroxide formed instead of the color of the PPT. This is also a mistake which you make. Ferric hydroxide is formed. But what was the color of the ferric hydroxide? How did you come to know that it is ferric hydroxide over there? So reddish brown PPT of ferric hydroxide is formed. This you have to teach. Then writing inky blue precipitate instead of inky blue solution. First pale blue PPT is formed. Then when you add excess, what happens? It turns to an inky blue solution. If you write inky blue PPT, no marks. Because the PPT dissolves, the pale blue PPT dissolves to give you an inky blue solution. So this was all about the analytical chemistry. Ma'am, next slide. Okay. Mole concept and stoichiometry. Children, this chapter seems very difficult to most of the children. Believe me, children, this is the most scoring chapter. Very, very easy. You need to know the terms, and for this, if you sit and mug up the formulas, it is not going to help you out. If you know it by heart and you are perfect in it, then it is fine. But what I would suggest for this chapter is please use the unitary method to solve the numericals for this chapter. So we have main emphasis for this Gay-Lussac's law statements. Every year it is asked. Either they ask you to give the law or they give you the law and they ask you to identify what it is. Next, Avogadro's law, statement and numericals. Then mole concept and numericals based on its applications of Avogadro's law. Then we have a very important application over here, that is vapor density. Molecular mass is equal to 2 into vapor density. Its definition, its relation with relative molecular mass. 1 mark numerical is always asked from this topic. Then for stoichiometry, percentage composition, empirical formula and molecular formula, that is the definition will be asked and simple numericals will be asked from you. For empirical formula, children, you can always use the E-pass method. That is a table. For drawing the table, always remember this word E-pass. E over here stands for the element, P stands for the percentage, A stands for the atomic mass, S is the smallest number, and the second S over here stands for the simplest ratio. So if you make the table in this format and you solve it, it will be very easy for you. Then the question type that is asked from this chapter is basically the numericals, laws, and definitions. Again, laws, statements, and definitions have to be written the way it is given in the book. Don't write it in your own words. Don't try to frame your own sentences over here, children. The common errors over here, not writing correct statement for the law, not balancing the equations for numericals. If the equation is not given to you, you have to write the equation and you have to balance it. Whenever you are writing any chemical equation, children, you have to check it twice whether you have balanced it or not. Then confused when solving numericals and empirical formula. The main thing what you'll do, main error what you'll do over here is you'll divide the atomic weight by the percentage instead dividing the percentage by atomic weight. So you have to check that as well. To get the value of N, you divide the empirical formula mass by molecular mass. So avoid making these mistakes. Yes, you have to write the division. You have to write the division term. So this is a very, very simple topic. Children, use the unitary method over here. 2 marks, 3 marks or 4 mark questions are asked over here. 4 marks mein you will either get 2 marks ka 2 numericals. One big question and 2 sub questions in it. But it is always there. Ma'am, next slide. Okay. Electrolysis. Again, a very important topic. Here also, children, we have the definitions of electrolytes, electrodes, that is the cathodes, anodes, ions, that is the cations, anions, oxidizing electrodes, reducing electrodes, electrolytes, non-electrolytes, strong and weak electrolytes, active and inert electrodes, then electroplating, electrorefining, electrometallurgy. All these definitions are very important. Then you also need to know what are, I already told you, beta, E-pass. E stands for the element, which is given in the question paper. P stands for the percentage. A stands for the atomic mass. S stands for the smallest number. And S, the second S stands for the simplest ratio. I hope it is answered. Okay, so coming back to electrolysis, so we need to know what are the particles that are present in a strong electrolyte, weak electrolyte, and non-electrolyte. We need to know the classification. Then we also need to know the ions that are formed in electrolytic dissociation of the compound, the positive and the negative ions. Which one is going to form a positive ion? Which one is going to form a negative ion? Next, factors affecting selective discharge of ions. The metal activity series and the electrochemical series, very, very important. You need to learn this. There are many mnemonics given for this. Then the next factor that is affecting the selective discharge is the concentration, activin, the use of activin inert electrodes. For this, we have the electrolysis of molten lead bromide, acidified water, aqueous copper sulfate using both the active electrodes as well as the inert electrodes. No, children, they will not ask you to draw the diagram of the electrolytic cell. The diagram will be given to you and they will ask you questions based on the diagrams. But you need to know the labeled diagram. Yes, yes. So you need to know the label diagram, where will be the cathode, where will be the anode, what is happening at the cathode, what is happening at the anode. So we know the terms red cat, that is the reduction is taking place at the cathode, and oxidation is taking place at the anode. The cathode is placed at the right hand side, anode at the left hand side. So these things you need to know. You need to know the diagram. They will not ask you to draw the diagram, but they will give you wrong diagrams and then they will ask you which one is the correct one. So you have to take that. So like those type of questions will be asked. So you need to know the diagrams thoroughly. Diagram based questions are definitely asked from this chapter. Then applications, electroplating with nickel and silver, choices of the electrolytes, the conditions for electroplating, okay, electrorefining of copper, difference between electroplating and electrorefining. Children, you need to focus on the equations over here. You have to focus on the equations. You need to know what is getting oxidized, what is getting reduced. Okay, then reasons, then the electrolytes that we are using and the conditions for electroplating and electrorefining. The question types, diagram based questions are must. Definitions, identification of the term, write the electrode reaction, then what are the particles present in different types of electrolytes. If it is a weak electrolyte, what particles will be present? If it is a strong electrolyte, what particles will be present? Beta, board exams, the image quality is very good. Don't worry about that. It is crystal clear. There will be no problem in that. The image will be very good for very good quality. So do not worry about that. Okay. Ma'am, next slide. The common errors that children make in electrolysis. You forget what are the particles present in different type of electrolytes. We know if it is a weak electrolyte, we will be having ions as well as molecules of that electrolyte because it is not going to dissociate completely. Okay. And If it is a strong electrolyte, you will be getting only ions. Then cathode and anode reactions in terms of loss or gain of electrolytes. You tend to write the opposite thing. Okay. Next, what are the observations at cathode and anode during electrolysis? Most of the time you write copper is deposited. How did you know? It is copper only. So when it is an observation based question, you have to mention pink brown metal of copper is deposited. And again, the misinterpretation of terms. Ions are discharged at the electrodes. Ions are not deposited at the electrodes. If you write ions are deposited at the electrodes, you don't get marks. Ions are discharged at the electrodes and metal gets deposited. Metal doesn't get discharged. Metal gets deposited on the electrodes. And whatever observation is there, the color of the metal is a must. If a gas is evolved, the color of the gas has to be there. Hydrogen is a colorless gas, so bubbles are seen, that you have to mention. Okay, and a chemical test for the gas as always. So selection of ions for discharge during electrolysis, positive and negative electrodes, you forget about this also. Then difference between electroplating and electrorefining in terms of conditions. Writing the metal name instead of color for observations. Confusions in writing ions discharge at electrodes and metal gets deposited at electrodes. This I have already discussed. Ma'am, next slide. Okay. Next chapter is metallurgy, a very small chapter, and what all is there is all learning thing is there. So if you understand what is happening, you just have to learn it properly. So definitions, a very small and easy chapter, children. Definitions may you have to know that you need to know the definition of minerals, ores, alloy, electrometallurgy, calcination, roasting. Difference between calcination and roasting. Then common ores of iron, aluminium, zinc, stages that are involved in the extraction of metals, that is dressing of the ore, conversion of concentrated ores to its oxides, reduction of metallic oxides, electro-refining, all these stages you need to know. Extraction of aluminium, again, very, very important. Most of the questions are asked from here. So you need to know the Bayer's process for the purification of bauxite, then the three-step reaction for the purification. You need to know the reactions with the temperature and pressure conditions over here, children. All the reaction conditions have to be mentioned when you are writing the reactions. I'm repeating it again and again because you miss out on this and the marks are deducted for that. Electrolytic reduction, that is the purification of aluminium done electrolytically with the help of Hall-Herold's process. Then alloys, the composition and uses, the alloys for stainless steel, duralumin, brass, bronze, fused metals, etc. Dressing of sulfide, with a concentration of the ore, if they are giving you the first step, concentration of the, dressing of the ore, may if it is coming, it will be froth flotation. But if you are asking you to write the conversion of concentrated ore to its oxide, then the answer will be roasting. Next, then you tend to write the wrong chemical formula of the ores. Ma'am, the same slide. You tend to write the wrong chemical formula of the ores. Then you get confused with the product of Bayer's process while writing the equations. Wrong cathode and anode reactions, confused with the main metals of alloys. This is a question that is asked. Give the main metal of the alloy. So you need to know which is the main metal. What you do is you write all the elements, but which one is the main, you have to underline that. Then you get confused with the uses of the alloys. It is also asked in the paper. Ma'am, next slide. Study of compounds. Very, very, very important. No, they don't ask that, but you need to know the percentage of solvent. The percentage in the solvent of cryolite and fluorspar. No, they don't ask that. Then study of compounds. Children, study of compounds, analytical chemistry, practical chemistry, and acid bases and salts. All these four chapters go hand in hand. If you check the equations, are the chemical reactions are getting repeated again and again. The same set of chemical reactions are seen there also and here also. So once if you do it thoroughly, this also becomes very easy for you. Yes, it is fine if you write the conditions separately. Not necessary that you write it on the arrow. Most of the time it so happens that on the arrow you don't have space. Okay. So children, I have prepared a slide where you can see all the four compounds I have covered in this one slide. So you need to know the lab preparation and the collection of the gas for hydrogen chloride gas, ammonia gas, and nitric acid. Sulfuric acid, we have only the industrial preparation. We don't have the laboratory preparation. Then the chemical properties of HCl, ammonia, nitric acid, and sulfuric acid is very, very important. Then fountain experiment for HCl and ammonia. From here also children, they can ask you, they can give you a diagram, and based on the diagram, you need to answer the questions. If they don't give you the diagram, they will give you other questions, but from fountain experiments, questions are also asked. Then for nitric acids, you need to know the common names of the reactants. Saltpeter, chili saltpeter, this you need to know. Then identification tests of hydrogen chloride gas, identification test of ammonia, identification test for nitric acid, and tests for dilute and concentrated sulfuric acid is very, very important. Question types, basically children, diagram based questions. Write balanced chemical equations for the preparation, laboratory preparation. Then you have the give the following conversion, name the following, give reasons, and observation based questions are basically asked from this chapter. Identify the property exhibited by sulfuric acid. Again, this is a very important question which is usually asked. Give balanced chemical equations, give reasons. All these type of questions are asked from this chapter. Children, I would like to go to the common errors. Ma'am, common errors. Okay. Now, missing out the word concentrated for sulfuric acid in the lab preparation. Most of the time, it so happens that you don't use the word concentrated. Children, we know that concentrated sulfuric acid behaves in a different way and dilute behaves in a different way. So for this, we need to mention the word concentrated. Okay. Next, less than and greater than sign for the preparation of lab preparation of HCl, NH3, HNO3 and H2SO4. If they have asked you to write the balanced chemical equation for the laboratory preparation of any of this compound, there children, you have to write only one equation where less than 200 is mentioned. If you give both the equations, you won't be getting marks over there. So check what is asked in the question paper. Okay. Next, write the reaction of greater than temperature for lab preparation. Again, the same thing. Method of collection of gas. Method of collection of gas is very, very important. You tend to make mistakes over here. Next, color of Cl2 gas as yellow, green or yellowish green. Now, chlorine gas is greenish yellow in color. Children, if you write yellowish green or yellow or only green, no marks will be given to you. So the color of the gas over here is also very, very important. Not writing the correct reactants for the lab preparations. Mention the correct reactants. Drying agents. Now, most of the time they ask you, what are the drying agents used and what are not used? You tend to get confused over here also. So you need to mention, you need to check what is asked, used or not used. Color of the PPT gas formed in the reaction, products of reaction of burning ammonia in oxygen and catalytic oxidation of ammonia, the greenish yellow flame which you get. That is very important over here. Writing reactions for observation based reactions. Again, they have asked you an observation-based questions. What do? Is you just write the equation and you leave it like that. No, you have to mention what is being observed over there. Next, you are confused with products formed when copper reacts with concentrated nitric acid. So check what are the products, what are the reactants. You need to mention each and everything properly over there. Confused with the color of the residue and color of the gas evolved on decomposition of nitrates. For question on reaction of sugar with concentrated sulfuric acid, most of them write it as a reactant, but they forget to write it in the product as well. It is given in the products as well. Ma'am, next slide. Next slide is the organic chemistry. Very, very important topic. Here you need to know the definitions of catenation, homologous series, functional groups, isomers, saturated and unsaturated hydrocarbons, alkanes, alkenes, alkynes, the general formula for alkanes, alkenes and alkynes, the structural formula of organic compounds.
Rahila ma'am, there are quite a few questions. If they have asked you about solvent of cryolite and fluorspar.
Just let me check, ma'am. I did not see the questions. Just let me check. Ma'am, do they mention
HNO3? How
yes,
do we
yes.
know if no? Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Do they? If they yes, they mention. They mention whether we are using hot and concentrate or it is cold or dilute. They mention over there. Yes, I will send the PPT, beta.
Children, PPT will be shared with the schools, not to worry about
yes.
it.
For HNO3, how do NO2 or NO? Beta, it is with respect to the equations. You need to learn the reactions over here. It is given separately in each one of the reactions, beta. So you can do it. If you know the reactions, you can easily do it. Veda, methamphetamine, it is not asked whether you need not know this. I'll tell you later on. Shall I continue, ma'am?
Please do, please do.
Okay. So, yes. So, emphasis is given to structure and structural formula of organic compounds up to 5 carbon atoms, that is alkanes, alkenes, alkynes, alcohols, aldehydes, and carboxylic acids. Up to 5 carbon atoms, you need to know the structural formula and the IUPAC name. Children, a question on IUPAC name and nomenclature is asked in the first section A. That is the compulsory 40 marks question. 5 mark question is always there. Since last 3 years it has been asked. So thoroughly prepare on this. And when they are asking you to draw the structural formula, see to it that you draw the entire open formula. Don't write the condensed formula over here. If you write the structural formula, it becomes easier for you to find out whether you have made any mistake over there or not. No, for temperature, beta, you need to mention what was the temperature. If it is an exothermic reaction, if you are writing only delta is for heat. The delta sign that we use on an arrow is for heat. So you have to mention the temperature. Okay. So simple nomenclature of hydrocarbons with simple functional groups, general formula for alkanes, alkenes, alkynes, methods of preparation of alkanes, alkenes, alkynes, and ethanol is very important. So if you analyze the reactions and equations of organic chemistry, you will see that the reaction of any given compound, the compounds which are used over here, for one compound is the property for the other compound. So it is going to repeat. Okay. Next, the chemical properties of alkanes, that is the complete combustion of methane and ethane, the substitution reactions with chlorine in alkanes, then alkanes and alkynes only main properties, particularly addition product with respect to hydrogen and halogens are asked. So don't do the entire thing. Stick to the syllabus. Then alcohols may again combustion, action with sodium, ester formation, dehydration with concentrated sulfuric acid, carboxylic acid action with litmus alkalis and alcohols. Then physical properties of ethanol, acetic acid, uses of methane, ethane, ethene, ethine, ethanol and acetic acid is always asked. The type of questions, 5 mark compulsory question on IUPAC and nomenclature, tests for unsaturation, then deduce the structures, definition, give balanced chemical equation, then give reasons, distinguish between, name the following, identify the following, state the observation, choose the correct answer, and so on. So these are the type of questions that are asked from organic chemistry. The common errors, you children get too confused about the general formula of alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes, then the types of bonds, whether there is a double bond between the two carbon atoms in alkanes, alkenes, or alkynes. So for alkanes, single bonds are there. For alkenes, double bonds are there. And for alkynes, triple bonds are there. Then IUPAC names, trivial names are there. IUPAC names, you forget to write the IUPAC name, you write the trivial name and you come. Missing out hydrogen atom while drawing the structures of organic compounds. Yes, you write all the C and you forget to draw the H over there. So please don't do that. Then wrong spellings of hydrocarbons, the functional group al and all. Instead of pentanol, you write pentanol. So OL is for the alcoholic group, that is OH. And AL is there for the aldehyde group, CHO. OH, it could be in any of the positions, but aldehyde group and carboxylic group will always be at the end of the chain. Not counting the carbon atoms of the CHO and the COH group while drawing the structures. This is also a common mistake which has been made. Then not writing the balanced chemical equations. Again, over here, children, if you check the chemical equations for organic chemistry, they are quite easy as compared to the inorganic chemistry. They are short and they are easy to learn and understand. So see to it that you write the balanced chemical equations along with the correct conditions. Confusion and differentiation of methylated alcohol and denatured alcohol. Why you want to draw the compound? Better write the formula, na? No, if they are asking you to equation, write the, don't draw the compound. You will waste time. Instead of drawing the compound, just write CH4. It will be easy. You will save time. Ma'am, next slide. Next, practical chemistry. Again, a very important chapter. So here we have the identification of gases. 10 gases are given. Identification of cations and anions. Action of heat. Identification of copper oxide and manganese oxide using concentrated HCl. Identification of acidic and basic solutions using indicators, pH paper, and typical acid test. The question types, distinguish between, identify the cations or anions from the given compounds, state relevant observations for the following reactions, give a chemical test to distinguish between each of the following pairs, and name the following. These are the type of questions that are going to be asked from practical chemistry. Again, practical chemistry, if you check study of compounds, acid, bases, and salts, and analytical chemistry, the same reactions are getting repeated from there only. So if you are doing that thoroughly, practical chemistry is simultaneously done. Common errors, missing out the word ion for identification of cation or anion, writing the equations instead of observation, not writing the confirmatory test for gases. Again, I'm telling you children, whenever you write a gas is evolved, the color of the gas, the odor of the gas, and the chemical test of any one chemical test for that gas has to be mentioned over there. Writing the chemical name of the compound form instead of the color. So you have to mention the color. And when you mention the color, the initial color and the final color has to be mentioned. That this was the color of the salt at the beginning. After decomposition, this is the color of the salt. So that both you have to mention. Then writing the symbol of the cation and anion without the positive or the negative sign. So this was all about all the chapters in chemistry. So